With the greatest balloon voyage ever ending, John Wise wanted to take his innovations to a whole different level. Thus, he made the first airmail delivery with a balloon. On August 17th, 1859, John Wise sets out on another voyage that defined his ballooning career. The flight would be a transcontinental flight from Lafayette, Indiana, to the Big Apple. Most balloon airmail was not sanctioned by the Post Office Department, but this one would have Wise carry 123 letters across the United States in order to make airmail more frequent. The name given to the balloon was Jupiter. All 123 letters were placed in a mail bag with a bronze lock that read New York City on the side of the bag, placed in the wicker basket of John Wise, and was ready to go. The flight took off around 2 p.m. on the 17th by the Lafayette Gas Company. This would be John's 233rd balloon voyage in his life, out of 463 descents. It was also said the balloon was one of the biggest crowds that Lafayette has ever seen, with an estimate of more than 20,000 people. At first, Wise had issues finding the current to take the balloon and eventually rose about 14,000 feet when he flew off, until an airstream started to drift him south, which had him dropping most of his sand ballast. With that, Wise knew that the remaining ballast would not be sufficient to keep going, and after 5 hours of flight, he had to be forced to land in Crawfordsville, 30 miles from Lafayette. When John landed, he had given the mail to a courier that would later have the mail delivered by train. Unfortunately, it was another failure, but it was still listed as the first airmail flight. It's 1861 and the Civil War has been raging. The Union Army was fighting back and forth with the Confederacy. Then the Army made a plan to use balloons that would be used to spy or be used for aerial attacks. John Wise ended up being one of those top balloonists to make a bid for the chief of the soon-to-be Balloon Corps for the opening months of the Civil War. He lost the bid though, due to not having enough endorsements from the scientific community. So they went with one who was named Professor Thaddeus Lowe. When July 16th came around, the Army was in need for a balloon to be sent to the Battle of Bull Run. They called upon Wise to come, but as the engineers waited for him before the battle, John Wise was nowhere to be found. So Professor Lowe started to inflate the balloon until the belated Wise showed up and demanded to be the one to go per Major Albert Meyer's orders. The Major and 20 other volunteers helped to inflate the balloon with Wise, then went to the battlefield. But because of the Major's haste to get the balloon going, had the balloon winding up in a couple of tree branches stuck, which led to the Army removing John Wise from the war, not even the mess up being his fault. Another wartime event John helped out with was in the Mexican War. He devised a plan to use a balloon to take over the city of Veracruz, which was guarded by Fort San Juan del Ulua. He suggested a fabricated gas balloon capable of lifting 18,000 pounds of explosives to drop in the fortress. The War Department ignored his plea, yet used the plan later without giving him any credit at all. Wise would then go on to do many more flights after the war, but not very notable ones, until the one of September 28, 1879. He was at the age of 71 and was accompanied by a passenger named George Burr. They went in the balloon called the Pathfinder. They were to make a high-speed voyage from St. Louis, Illinois, over Lake Michigan. While the trip started off great and the balloon sailed great, but the last time it was ever seen was over Carlinville, Illinois, going towards the lake. That was the last time that anyone ever saw John Wise. When going over Lake Michigan, he completely disappeared. The body of George Burr was later found floating in Lake Michigan. Still no sign of Wise though. But given that they found Burr's body floating in the lake, gave little to no imagination of what might have happened to Wise. Although Wise and the Pathfinder's remains have yet to be found till this day. Many people debate what might have happened to Wise. Some normal like he died from having the balloon blow into a storm, which ended up with the balloon and himself going to the bottom of the massive lake. Some would even speculate that he went into the Michigan Lake Triangle, sending him into another dimension. Some would also even say that Burr was an assassin and wanted to steal aeronautical secrets from Wise. So Wise ended up killing him and fled to Canada. But until Wise and the balloon are found, it is still just theories. But one can't help but wonder, what happened to John Wise? And with that, the series of John Wise has ended, and I hope you enjoyed it. And for those who watched, thank you so much for coming and watching this. I was really excited to make this. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe and the notification button so you can see videos when I post them. I'll see you on the next one.